Hey everyone. All right, so I'm Jamie Wolf. This is pre-training day 4 for Create Your Million Dollar Story. So people know, like, and trust you, the 14-day strategy master class that actually started today. So I'm a little bit behind on recording my pre-trainings, but nonetheless, here we are. And I'm always amused at some of the things that are supposed to be time-saving that I end up taking the most amount of time. So let's talk about the resources for today, and then I'll get into my story. So as you've been hearing for the last several days, the format is the results you're going to get from taking the actions and the resources that you're going to use. So today we're actually going to talk about all those resources. And again, remember, with this pre-training, you can simply comment in the link below or put a comment below to ask for the link to get the free PDF that will list all of these resources for you. And the idea of using resources is to increase your efficiency, get some clarity about what you're doing, eliminate guesswork, wondering which tool to use, and in theory, increased productivity. And here's the reason I say in theory. So there is a fine balance between finding the 1 million apps out there that are going to help you do something, and then understanding that every single one of them has a learning curve. And if you spent 20 years in the tech space or the online marketing world or the digital world, then, or you're under the age of 30, then perhaps some of this has a shorter learning curve because a lot of it becomes intuitive to you, or you're just super familiar with it. You've been learning all along and using these for work for years. And so as each new thing comes along and improves upon the last thing, it's a pretty normal transition for you. But if you're more like me, and I've been in the corporate world and the brick and mortar space, and this online digital world is a new one, and I'm really excited to learn about it, but there's an overwhelming number of solutions out there. Some of them are intuitive. Even the ones that are easy to use still have a bit of a learning curve to them. And so there's a balance and a decision to be made about what you're going to learn to do yourself, what you're going to learn to do yourself well, or you're going to get just enough knowledge and familiarity with them that you can then ask somebody else to use it, go do that thing for you, like go to Fiverr or go to Upwork or some of those other places and get somebody to do it for you, but you also know what they're doing. It's kind of like the story of the tourist getting in a taxi cab in New York City, or any place in the world for that matter, and saying, I want to take the shortest route from here to there. And an hour later, you're somewhere and you happily pay for it, and you find out from the locals that you could have gotten there in 10 minutes and you just went for a ride, but the driver knew you weren't familiar with where you were going, and so they took advantage of you. So same thing kind of with all of this. If you're asking somebody else to do it for you, you may not understand that it is very simple and should have cost less and taken less time, or it really is pretty darn complex, and you got a sweet deal if they finished it that fast. So let's look at some of the lists. I'm just going to run through this really fast. Lucid Chart and Loom. I'm on Loom right this very second. Trello is a great project management. OBS is great for recording. I honestly haven't used OBS, and so here's where it gets amusing. I was looking at a way to do Facebook Lives that I could screen share and record and be able to see me in the corner, because when I just use ScreenFlow and record my desktop, I can't see me. So I can't look at myself on the screen. I don't know if I'm taking up a lot of space or a little space, which is why yesterday's recording actually had this great big me covering up a good deal of the screen, and I didn't know it because I couldn't see it. But even though I have the pro plan with Zoom, and I went and looked at some of the tutorials, and it said, oh, just go into webinar mode instead of meeting mode. I don't have webinar mode enabled, and there wasn't an easy button for me to push. And so again, it's just required a few extra steps. So what I thought would be super simple and I was delaying and procrastinating about learning how to use it. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. We're going to go do this and we're going to go do live. And then I couldn't. And I'm sure I'll get it solved soon, but it's just one of those little things where you're using a tool. You've heard other people say it's a great tool. It's much easier than OBS. Again, people who are familiar with OBS love it. People like me who are novices at some of these software things, it was suggested that the Zoom webinar version would be easier to use to go on Facebook Live, and I'm sure it will be as soon as it's enabled. It just wasn't enabled on my account. Anchor FM is a great place to record podcasts, and then it distributes it for you to a lot of different platforms. Medium is a great place to blog, does the same thing. It distributes it to a lot of platforms. Once you're approved and you write, it will then send it out. Canva, I used the free version for a really long time. It's a super easy place to upload photos and do all sorts of graphics. You can do Facebook covers and social media posts, and it sizes it correctly for Instagram and LinkedIn. And then you can do book covers, and you can do, personal things, invites and flyers and all sorts of stuff on Canva. And the only reason I upgraded eventually after a really long time of using the free version is I simply wanted to be able to access a few more colors and a few more templates and different custom sizes. Stencil, Snappa, Design Bold, you can go look all these up and investigate what they do. This is a really good place just to, so you have a video recording, you want the words transcribed and turned into a blog post, or you want to save them and eventually stick them together in chapters, or you want to take snippets out and be able to use them on your Facebook posts or your Instagram posts or all sorts of other places. You don't have to do it yourself. So you don't have to listen to your own recording and painstakingly go through the words. So these are places that you can get this done for you. And what's ideal about this is for those of you who want to write a book but don't like to write, you could do something like this. You could get on Loom, you could get on Zoom, you could just do your phone and record yourself talking. You could sit down with a friend and record yourself talking and then submit the recording to any of these services and get it all transcribed for you. And then from there you can improve upon it or edit it or switch it up. So please, please, please don't let the fact that if you are a person who doesn't feel comfortable writing, that should not get in the way, absolutely not, of your writing a book, because there's tools that will do the writing part for you. If you've got the information in your head and you have a way of getting it out of your head, we can find a tool to do that for you, okay? All right, these are places where you can go and hire other people to do things for you, like make that cover or put a digital product 3D design together or something like that. So if you don't have Photoshop and you don't want to learn how to use Photoshop, you go to one of these places and they can do it for you. Again, more of the same thing. 99 Designs is something that I used at one point for a book cover. What's really cool about 99 Designs is you can have a contest. So you can give them a little bit of art and give them some ideas and say, okay, put in a bid, say for $50 or $150 or $250 or whatever you want to spend. This is what I'm looking for. And you're going to run your contest for about 5 days. And usually there's not a whole lot of activity on days 1, 2, and 3. And you interact with the designs that are submitted. And you say, well, I like this and I don't like that. And I really had something else in mind. And there's people in the wings watching. So as they're learning what it is that you really had in mind, then the folks will jump in at the last minute and produce. And then what you can do is you could take 3 or 4 of your favorite designs and you could send them out amongst your peers and say, would you please vote? I want to know which ones you guys like best. So it's a way of getting some public feedback as well as just getting something done in a hurry for a reasonable amount of money. More resources. There's a lot. So Keynote is something that you can use if you've got a Mac. PowerPoint would be the version on a PC. ScreenFlow is the version on a Mac. Camtasia is the version on PC. Blue Microphone is what I'm using right now. ClickFunnels is the software that's the framework for a lot of what I'm going to be talking about in the next 2 weeks. It's where you build your landing page and your sales page and your order form and put your membership site in. Stripe is a way of taking payments. It's a merchant services account that doesn't do a huge background check, so it's one to get up and running quickly. It would be like using PayPal, only it's your Stripe account. So these are more resources. I use pretty much all of these every day. There's a lot of people who have strong opinions about GoDaddy is good, GoDaddy is horrible. There are other places to host your website. You can Google it and figure out which ones you want to use or talk to your friends. Aweber or MailChimp, ClickFunnels, Actionetics, those are all email services. You can read. These are all different services for you. So this was quick and dirty because we're not diving into any one particular resource, but there's a list of 41 there for you. It would certainly get you started with anything that you want to do. And as we go through the next 2 weeks, I will specifically refer to some of them, but I wanted you to see that there's more of them out there. And of course, the actual number is limitless, but this would be a place to narrow down where to get started. And then you can go research yourself and see which ones you're comfortable with. Again, just the caveat of balancing the learning curve to do it yourself versus hiring somebody else to do it for you, but having some basic understanding and concept of what it is. And a lot of that is always the balance between budget and time. Which do you have more of? I have tons of money and zero time. Outsource all of it. I have quite a bit of time on my hands and no money. You're going to do the work yourself, but it's going to take you longer, and there's an opportunity cost with that, right? Because if you're going through the very slow learning curve and you're doing it all yourself and it takes you 10 times as long, that's time that you're not out in the marketplace providing value to potential customers. So at one point in the past, I had a lot of women friends who were determined to learn how to work on cars. And so they were suggesting that I get on the bandwagon and learn how to change my own oil and learn how to service my own vehicle. And it's like, you know what? I just don't want to. I have no interest. I can drive to Jiffy Lube and never get out of the car and never get my hands dirty. And 10 minutes later, I'm done. Or I could go through this long period of time to learn everything, buy all the tools, figure out what to do to dispose of the dirty oil afterwards, and get really dirty in the process and go, ooh, look at me, I can change oil. So I'm not ragging on anyone who has that skill. That's wonderful. I just don't want that skill. I would much rather hand that off to somebody else. I don't want anything to do. I mean, decades ago, I had a car that would quit on the side of the road all the time. And so I learned, the 3 little things to jiggle and the wires to reattach to get it going again, so I could always get my car going again. That was important. I was a whole lot happier when I was just able to get rid of that car and buy one that actually ran all the time consistently, right? So there's that trade-off too. Anyway, we've only got one more day of pre-training and then we're jumping into the actual training. I'm excited for you and looking forward to working with you. And I apologize for my technical difficulties with this recording beastie. I'm willing to bet at the end of 2 weeks that I won't care about this anymore. All right, Jamie Wolf signing off. Thanks very much. Bye.